Have you ever wondered what it feels like to play zero elo chess? Well, I haven't because I know the feelings. And today I want to share with you some things that I learned on my journey to become kind of a decent player, I would say. This is part one of a three parts video where I'm gonna analyze the general traits of a chess game, the opening stage, the middle game, and the end game. Today, we're gonna start with the opening. So let's grab our chessboard and let's start. So, what is the opening? The opening is generally the first 10 to 12 moves of a chess game. And in the opening stage, you should focus on some vital points that I'm gonna show you. So, first of all, there are three main goals which you should achieve in the opening. First of all, you should gain control in the center. So, what is the center? The center are these four squares: d4, e4, e5, and d5. And you can gain control over the center either by putting pawns or with the bishops or other pieces like bishops and knights. So this is the first goal you should pursue. But why is that? Because if you have central control, it means that you have space, and if you have space, you can maneuver your pieces more easily and you can make threats. And by making threats, you can either win material or create an attack on your opponent's king. And so the central squares are vital. The second goal is to develop your pieces. By developing your pieces, we mean putting them on squares where they are more active. And what I mean by that is, for example, let's clear the board. Like let's clean it, and let's take the knight for example. The knight, for example, in this case on g8, has only three squares: f6, e7, and h6. So we say that this is a passive square for the knight. Meanwhile, if we put in the center, if we put it in the center, like on e4, it has control over 8 squares, which is a lot more than 3. So this is why putting your pieces toward the middle is really important, especially in the early stages of the game. So by developing pieces, we mean that we put them on squares which are closer to the center and where they can control more squares. For example, the knight. A knight in the center controls more squares than a knight on the edge of the board. Then the third goal in the opening should be to put your king to safety. Because if you keep your king in the center, your opponent might exploit that and you may suffer an attack. So these are the three goals you should achieve in the opening. There are some rules you should follow in the opening, but those are just rules for the beginners. For example, you shouldn't move the same pieces twice in the opening. For example, let's say e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, which is standard moves. Let's say I play bishop c4, my opponent plays knight f6. This move, bishop d3, to protect this pawn, is a really bad move because I moved the same piece twice, which is not good. So we have the basics, let's say. And with that, we can decide what opening we want to play. For example, in the first move, let's say we want to take control in the center. Generally, it is good to take it with a pawn, like this pawn or this pawn. I'm sorry, with this pawn or this pawn. And so one of the best first moves are either e4 or d4 or c4. And it's up to you to decide what to play. e4 generally leads to more tactical struggles, while d4 generally leads to more positional and strategical struggles. So we put a pawn in the center to gain central control, and our opponents plays e5, which is generally how opening goes. Generally, e4, e5 is one of the most popular openings in chess game. So we have gained control over the center with one pawn. When we play e4, generally what we want to play is d4. Right now, we cannot do that because the pawn is controlling that square. So we play knight f3. Knight f3 is a good move because we develop the pieces like we said in the beginning, and then we apply pressure on the center and we gain control over d4. Our opponent might respond with knight at c6, for example, which is a good move because it develops a piece, it defends the pawn, and it defends the d4 square. Generally, in the opening, you should develop your knight first, and then your bishop. For example, now we can move the light square bishop, let's say to c4. This is a good move because, as we said in the beginning, it develops a piece and it prepares the king to castle, so we bring the king to safety. Let's say black copies you, plays bishop c5, which is good, just the same. And then we castle, we bring the king to safety. Black develops and prepares castle. We play c3 in order to play d4 in the future, and black castle. Right now, yeah, c3, I'm sorry. I didn't wanna play c3, I wanted to play d3 because it protects the pawn, and then black castle. So this is an example of a really solid opening because we achieved all the three goals we said in the beginning. We developed our pieces, we need to develop these, but these are already developed. We gained central control with these pawns, the knight and the bishop, which are both fighting for these squares, and we brought our king to safety. This is an example of a good, solid opening. And the idea of this video is to be, let's say, the introduction of a playlist where I analyze openings in more depth. So I hope you liked videos, and yeah, if you liked it, consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Yeah, that's it. See you next time.